Hi, welcome to IT World Canada. I'm Schick, and we're here today to talk about Oracle's surprise acquisition of Sun Microsystems for US $7.4 billion. I say surprise because up until recently we all thought it was IBM that was in talks to acquire the company, according to reports in the Wall Street Journal and elsewhere. Although there were other suitors mentioned for Sun, I don't think Oracle was at the top of anybody's list. To help make sense of this, I'm here today with Brian Jackson, staff writer for ITBusiness.ca, and Kathleen Lau, senior writer for ComputerWorld Canada. So Brian, you went to Oracle OpenWorld last year. Can you talk a little bit about what some of the key messages were, and I guess in light of those, does this deal with Sun make sense?
Sure, Shane. Well, the big announcement last year at OpenWorld was this partnership between HP and Oracle with the first hardware release by Oracle. It was called the Oracle Exadata server. And the idea with that was it would offer their 11G database all in one convenient hardware server, make it a little bit easier for enterprises to implement other Oracle applications. And a lot of beta testers reported some great efficiencies there. So it's interesting now to see that Sun is going to be owned by Oracle. I wonder how they'll be able to take advantage of that hardware and really optimize their software for it. I think that HP could possibly be a bigger partner for Oracle down the line, helping them to manage that aspect, that side of things with all of Sun's hardware. Another announcement from OpenWorld was the cloud computing side of things, where Oracle was starting to offer some of their applications, including the database, through the cloud, and maybe targeting the mid-market more with this. And given that Sun has given a lot of investment towards cloud computing, I'm not surprised to see that there's that synergy as well.
You know, I'll be interested in this year's Oracle OpenWorld, because the last time I went, it was already an enormous show. There was like so much, going on. And I think that if they have to start talking about what they're doing from a Sun Microsystems perspective, I don't know what you found, but did you find that they were able to talk about all the stuff they already have in their product line? And I guess would it be even more challenging to kind of educate users if they're talking also about servers and hardware and other kinds of stuff?
That's an interesting point. I mean, Oracle OpenWorld is already a huge conference. When they host OpenWorld in San Francisco, it really just disrupts the entire downtown core. Streets are closed down. Yeah. And it is a lot of people coming in San Francisco. So, it's a gigantic conference, and now with the Sun ownership as well, it'll be interesting to see how they integrate that into things. I'm sure people will be asking so many questions about it. Everyone's going to want to know what's coming next out of this. But we've seen Oracle handle a lot of buyouts in the past, of course, and they seem to really incorporate it well. And I think they manage their different conference streams very well. So if you're a database administrator, they've got it pretty well designed for you. There's a lot of options. So you got to be specific as to what you want to learn about, if you're a database administrator, just pick and choose what applies to your job, and don't get too lost in the big craziness that is OpenWorld.
So for ITBusiness.ca, what are you hoping to explore in terms of the stories that you're working on, and what's going to be kind of, I guess, the most relevant issue for your readers?
Yeah, we're most interested in the small to mid-market today. We're going to try and cover that aspect of the story. So I think the cloud offerings is sort of interesting. We'll explore and see if we can expect anything there going forward, and maybe that's a way for Oracle to reach out to that mid-market now. Also, Sun has some really interesting verticals that they have access to in Canada. For example, they're big into the healthcare industry here, and I wonder if Oracle will take advantage of that now and tap into that market.
Great, thanks. Kathleen, you've been to Java 1. I don't think at that time there was a lot of talk in the air about Sun going away or there being kind of a takeover at the time. What was kind of the emphasis there? And I guess depending on what kind of a roadmap they outlined, how well do you think Oracle could kind of continue that, or would they change it?
That's interesting because at the time of the Java 1 conference last year, there's a lot of talk about shareholder issues and having some immense financial problems. And what Sun talked about more was just continuing to invest in what it already had architected for itself. It talked about building on its open source strategy and continuing to build out in that community. It also talked about building out on the Java developer community. So basically it wants to put out lots of products and tools to help that community build out applications. It talked a lot about providing different platforms as well, for instance, to help developers share and find services to help build out their apps. It talked about understanding their user community, for instance, and really helping them better get feedback from the actual application end users. They talked about a lot the RIA strategy as well. They talked a bit about really wanting to continue being a leader in that area and putting out some great rich internet application development tools. Not so sure if they've actually done that as well as you thought they have. Yeah. One of my concerns is that perhaps, I don't really know where Oracle might take this. Sun believes it is a leader in the space, but really Microsoft and Adobe have really put themselves out much further than Sun has. So I'm interested in seeing where Oracle takes that. I know that Brian had talked about Oracle having a really strong cloud computing initiative there. And it does fit in, I think, well with what Sun is doing, because it said it does want to continue building out in its data center products, and especially because it does want to continue supporting different web services that customers want.
Right.
In terms of the Java community and building out on that, I think it's a really good idea, especially considering that Oracle's Fusion middleware actually runs on Java. So that would be, I think it's a really good vested interest there for Oracle as well.
Now, you talk to a lot of developers, I know, in a lot of the stories that you're doing. What do you think the reaction from the developer community will be compared to, say, if IBM had taken them over, which I don't think of IBM as having as the same kind of developer community. Is Oracle sort of a partner that they would embrace, or would they prefer kind of a different?
Well, I think in terms with, Oracle is a software company, and Sun, I think, is considered a systems company, so they have both hardware and software.
Yeah.
I think perhaps they might be therefore better aligned. From what I've seen, Oracle has a very large development community as well, and I think they would be both aligned in terms of the amount of investment they want to put into that community. I'm not so sure about the IBM development community, but I know there's a much greater alignment there between Sun and Oracle, for sure.
And in terms of what ComputerWorld Canada is focusing on, the issues of concern for its readers, and what you're hoping to learn through this? Well,
I'm looking specifically at the software angle, so we want to know precisely what Oracle will be benefiting from acquiring Sun. There are different things, as I mentioned. There's the open source version of the operating system. There's also RIA applications, there's Java, so that I'm interested in knowing exactly how Oracle will benefit from that, whether there will be a consolidation or whether there will be, redundancies in the portfolios.
Right. Excellent. You can read both Kathleen's and Brian's stories on ITBusiness.ca and IT World Canada, respectively. You'll also see coverage in Computer Dealer News, the Direction of Informatique, and across our blog network. For IT World Canada, I'm Shane Schick. Thanks for watching.